love, like I sat across from one woman who said that she can sleep with, 12 men in one night, and how much money she makes. And I looked at her and I just thought, I told her I was gonna pray for her. Like literally, I'm going to pray for you because I know that what you are saying is not true, but you need to say it so that so you can keep doing it,
Well, it's she's saying it because the men that pay her want to hear that. She has to still stay within the fantasy. You know what I mean? And so like, let's say if you have an OnlyFans and stuff and you get on the whatever podcast and you're like, actually, I'm a good girl. I've never done porn in my life. I'm really smart. And like, I just kind of just talk shit to these guys to make money, but I never do anything. The guys are gonna be like, I'm never paying this girl any money ever again. So you have to go on those podcasts essentially and say, yeah, I had sex with 12 guys. And like, maybe the guys are like cucks that give them money, and they like to hear things like that. And they're like, oh, you said what I wanted you to say on the whatever podcast. Now I'm going to send you $1,500. That's how those things work. I will tell you, doing Slut Walk and talking to a lot of women and sex workers, 99% of sex workers do not want to be sex workers. And that's porn, prostitution, stripping, OnlyFans, all of the above. They don't want to do it. And I'll leave the 1% for girls that want to argue with me online about how much they love porn or whatever. I've talked to thousands of girls throughout the years. Nobody wants to do that. But the problem is that, like we were saying upstairs, the feminism turned women masculine, men beta. And now what happened is that these girls have masculine energy and the guys are still beta, and the guys also tell the girls, no one's ever gonna marry you. You're damaged goods. There's no redemption. You're never gonna figure this out. You might as well just give up on life. And so that doesn't actually help the girls either. They're just like, well, I might as well just stay in it. No one's ever gonna love me anyway. And so it's a vicious cycle, and that's why, people getting married, like marriage rates are down and divorce is up, and we just can't get along with each other.
Right, I totally agree.
Yeah.
You and I have tons of disagreements. Like I said, you're in your early phase, but
Yeah.
I was there. I vividly recall sitting across from Dave Rubin, and I hadn't had it all figured out, and I just knew I disagreed with that one thing, and I now am probably considered far right, I guess. I mean, I'm as right as I could possibly be on a lot of the issues, because it was like peeling back an onion. I was like, this isn't true. And then I was like, oh wait, this isn't true. And this is how feminism plays into this and plays into this, and this is how this plays into this. And then finally I just was like, I am a Christian that's like Bible based, and because the Bible always had the answers I was looking for. But I want to talk about some things that we disagree with, because I want people to know that this isn't an act. Like, this is not an act. You've said what you believe, and you don't, like, it's not like you're checking boxes and just saying stuff that you would expect a Christian conservative Republican to say.
Yeah.
We disagree on trans stuff, I think. Do we? I don't know.
I think we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are you at on like the trans, I call it the trans agenda, the explosion of transgenderism, I guess we could say?
Yeah, so I grew up in the ballroom scene. I don't know if you know what that is in the gay trans world.
I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so it's mostly a lot of people at the time that their families didn't really necessarily accept them. And so they created families within that community. And they named those families different things, and they were called houses, right? And so I was in a house when I was younger. My best friend was like a gay boy, he was like 13 or whatever. And I was surrounded by actual trans people. Now, back in that day, which is the 90s, 2000s, let's say a trans girl would get an attitude with me. The other trans girls that were my friends would be like, bitch, you're a man. Don't do that to Amber. Like, you're a man, I'm a man. Me and you could fight, but you're not gonna touch her. So those are the trans women that I'm used to being around, that I grew up with, right? And it was kind of shady to call like a trans girl a man, but they would do that. So here's the thing. Am I for a gender affirming care for children? Absolutely not. I think we share that same sentiment. Am I for a gender affirming care for consenting adults? Absolutely. Now, do I think that a lot of people on TikTok and Instagram Are actual trans people, a lot of them are not. They're cosplaying and they want to be a part of a community, they want attention. Are trans people real? Yes, they're very much real. And I think that those other people give the trans community a bad name because they really just, and I'm sure, Candace, that you've been in the bathroom with trans people probably plenty of times, just didn't even know because they just went to use the bathroom and no one cared and they washed their hands and they left. The problem is that there's literally grown biological men with mustaches and beards with, shaving in the women's locker room, not even remotely close to transitioning into a trans woman. And they make women feel uncomfortable in women's spaces. I'm not for that at all. But I think like someone like Danielle, for an example, that's very far in her transition, and she has a full sex change, by the way. I think she understands that she is a biological male, but for me, I would call her she, her. I would just do that because she looks like a girl and she's so far into her transition with the breasts and the softness in the face that I wouldn't be disrespectful. Although I think she does understand that she is a biological male. So that's where I'm at with. And I'm also for gay marriage. I think the more love that we have, especially in America, because it's really the happier we would all be. So I think that, and a lot of white gay male couples adopt a lot of young Black children that grow up in foster care because they always say like the Black boys are last to be picked. I'm a mother of 2 Black boys, and my father was also in foster care for most of his life. And I think that it gives these kids an opportunity to go to a good school and have a good life, even if it is 2 dads.
Yeah, so I think, and I disagree with a lot of that, almost all of it.
I'm sure.
Almost all of it, actually. And I think sometimes the mischaracterization is that conservatives don't view people who are trans as people. They're people, they're absolutely people. I just, in the same way that I would not, if someone who was schizophrenic told me they were Superman, I wouldn't play the role with them, because they're not children.
I actually agree with you with that.
Yeah, you're not a child, you're an adult. So if I'm gonna play fantasy, I'm gonna play fantasy with my children who are toddlers, but I'm not gonna do it with an adult because I think that's part of the issue is that it's now become so commonplace and they're basically saying, I'm the same as you and you have to pretend I'm the same as you. And I'm like, actually, you're not the same as me.
No, they're not.
And I don't want you to suffer because I think you're already suffering. I actually believe, especially for a lot of these people, and I've sat across from multiple people that are suffering with transgenderism, and one person, especially if they're very young and they go through these procedures too young, had their entire life ruined. And he looked across from me, Brianna Ivy, and said, I just wish somebody had said to me, like, you're not this, instead of having Hollywood glamorize this and put Caitlyn Jenner on the exact same thing you're talking about. They make it look it's gonna be so amazing, you're gonna be so happy. And in reality, you can get on this path and you can't go backwards once you get to a certain point.
Yeah.
And he had the bottom surgery and he was like, I don't know, I found a doctor on TikTok.
They fast track these young kids. They fast track them, they cut their breast off. They give them the gender assignment surgery. I actually agree with you, Candace, when it comes to that. Trans women are not women. They're not real women, but they are trans women. And I'm okay with that term, but they are not or ever going to be biological women. Yeah. So,
and I think when it comes to gay marriage, and that again gets into my perception, which is so much further, like 8 years along of looking into everything. I just know that the nuclear family is what has always been under attack, and they just keep trying to stop a man and a woman coming together, getting married and having kids. Like that, if you look at every single one of these, what I would describe as leftist positions, it's always an attack on the family. Even climate change, like how did we get there? They're telling kids not to get married or have kids because the planet's gonna be over in 10 years. When you think about transgenderism, they're editing their parts in a way they will never be able to have productive families. Gay marriage is obviously not a nuclear family. You cannot have children the natural way. Feminism is poisoning women's perspectives on men.
But there's a lot of children that need homes.
For sure, but there are a lot of nuclear family mother and fathers who would adopt them. And I believe kids need, as we were talking about, they're best advantaged when they have a 2-parent home, a mom and a dad. And I agree with you that being wardens of the state, You know, you don't want kids to be born in the state. I grew up with a mother who spent time in a group home. I get that too. But I just think that there's this like this purposeful attack on just that normal family structure, because when you have that normal family structure, you have virtually every advantage in life.
Yeah, I think that's an